Hey, welcome back to Engineer's Workshop. Well, it's new machines day. I say machines, we got more than one. Actually have three and a half maybe machines to show you. Don't get too excited because only one of them is related to metalworking or fabrication. But every fab shop, every machine shop needs a shipping department, right? So what I ended up with is I got a shipping department all in one shot because I needed a cabinet saw or a table saw, and I needed a radial saw. Right now the only thing I have to make any kind of crating or anything is the little chop saw. But for handling sheet goods, I got a nice Delta contractor saw, and it's got the cast iron tabletop, full cast iron tabletop, and a rolling stand. Missing a motor and missing the hand wheel that elevates the blade, but otherwise basically complete. The price was right, and I got a nice Delta Rockwell. It's at least a 14-inch, might be a 16-inch radial arm saw. The kind where the upper arm pivots in the center so that you can do your cross cuts and pivot it and do miters and rips, and it stays basically centered in the table. So let's get those unloaded, and I'll show you another piece of equipment we got for metalworking. Check it out. Okay, so first machine is this Marvel Draw Cut Power Hacksaw. Picked it up off of Facebook Marketplace. Really neat little machine. Deceptive. It looks tiny and delicate, but man is this thing heavy. It has a 17.5-inch blade, or excuse me, a 17-inch blade mounted right now. I think it could take an 18-inch blade. And the stand, the feet on it are only about, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches wide. So you absolutely have to mount this thing to either the floor or to, you know, timbers like this. Manually lift, and then it has a tension adjustment for bringing the saw down. And there's a cam. There's a cam for lifting it, and there's a cam on the tensioner, which hooks right here. And that cam, which is really just an eccentric, rides with a half shoe that adds tension as the saw is drawing backwards. So it does have a variable tension arrangement with the with that tension spring up under the front there. It is packed full of sawdust and metal dust. The guy was using it probably 50-50 to cut, you know, 2x4s and also pieces of steel. So what I would like to do is pop the outer cover off, because there is a silent chain running to a jack shaft, and then it's gear driven. There's a bull gear with a small pinion, and it's supposed to be oil in there. I'm not sure there's any oil to speak of, but we'll put a pan under there and see if there's any oil left in this thing, and just check generally the condition of the chain and the gears. That's a good sign that we're getting a little bit of oil out. Of course, I put a little bit on the face of the gear just to make sure it wasn't running dry in there. Wow, it really looks good. Just a free-floating gear, bronze shaft here. A little bit of play there. Probably more than you'd like to have. But the side plates on the chain keep everything from moving from side to side. These gear teeth all look really good, and there's a little mating pinion gear that mounted to the back of this gear that mates with the bull gear. So a little bit of oil in there, not enough to reach the chain, but we can definitely increase the amount of oil in it before we fire it back up. Looks like it was well cared for. The two set screws on the flats don't look like they've squirmed around at all. Huh, there's a paper gasket on both surfaces. That's interesting. I'd say the best thing to do with this would be to seal it back up and keep the dirt from getting in, and just bring the oil level up, do a cleanup of the outside of this, and put it back into service. This was my dad's. Had 3 of these at one point. I only have 2 now, but you could fold out the handle and get extra torque on your screws. You can find them on eBay. I should figure out what size I'm missing and just get a replacement. Toughie. So other than a general cleanup, I need to get a replacement oiler for the back. I did tighten up the gibs here a little bit. It's just a little bit of play. Could probably take a little bit more clearance out of there. The stroke length is adjustable. It could actually use a little bit more stroke than what it has right now, because we're stopping short on the square way there. But neat little saw. So while we're talking about machines, I guess this is a machine. This is a wood or coal-fired boiler, and I got this kind of a little bit of a gamble. It was very cheap. It's either Swedish or German, but it has a removable weir here, grate, that you can fill this thing up with coal, and the ash pan is on the bottom. But it's a fully jacketed, fully water jacketed boiler. About 200,000 BTUs. We're going to use it to heat this shop. We need to fabricate a new cover here on this side. This was gasketed, and the smoke chamber is along the front. All of the flue gases come across and out the back. That piece bolts on to the back here, but it was cheap. I'm going to assume it is still watertight. We will have to test that, and I will test that before I invest too much time and certainly any more money into it. But we have an oil-fired boiler now for the shop, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a hydrotherm cast iron boiler, but price of fuel oil lately, I went and got a 55-gallon drum of off-road number 2 fuel oil. Paid close to $300 for it. It was $5 a gallon, and I just can't afford to heat the shop at that kind of price. So, as long as this thing pans out to be okay, we're going to switch over to wood. We generate a lot of wood scraps, and coal's still cheap. We can throw some coal in there and heat this shop with the wood boiler instead. trying to make room for my son's Spitfire body to come in here. So the Peerless power hacksaw is going to move over to the big building. This needs some repair work to the, it's like a feed pawl mechanism. It won't down feed, and the entire head assembly is come loose a little bit, and it's squirming when it cuts. So this thing needs going through, and it's going to be over at the other building anyway, doing our metal cutoff work. So we'll move it. Its problem is it's about 900 pounds, so we're going to have to get some rollers over here and get it rolled up onto a trailer. That'll free up some space, and we'll probably put casters on the little draw cut and keep that here for when he does his fabrication here at the small building. Contractor saw is in decent shape. It is missing a motor, but does have part of the pivot bracket, so we can weld a plate onto that. And it is missing the crank for tilting the arbor. Not a big deal. And the, let me think, I'm sorry, that is the crank for elevating the blade. And this is the crank for tilting the arbor. Original, I think they call it the jet lock fence. Got a little bit of a tweak in this tube that we have to straighten out. But that's a long set of extension rails there. Make an outfeed table, maybe a side feed table for this thing, and that would be pretty sweet. Price was right on these saws. I gave less than 2 bags of groceries for it. I mean, I think it was $75 for this one and $60 for the contractor saw. They had a bunch of table saws. They had some enclosed base cabinet saws. One of them might have been a unisaw. I didn't get to the place soon enough when the ad went up, but everything was $75. This was the last one to go, so they let it go cheaper. Got everything back to the house. Found a screw on the deck of the trailer there. And I'm wondering, what's that from? And I looked up, and lo and behold, yeah, there was a cover on that box when we started out. So unfortunately, that is somewhere between here and downtown Richmond. I'll have to get a new lid for that or make something up, but that's the only thing we lost. Elevating mechanism cranks from the front. We are broken here on the casting that clamps the blade, or clamps the motor housing, and there's a indexing pin that goes in there to lock you at a perfect 90. So we will braze something up for that. This is for locking you on the travel of the arm. It did have a spring return. I don't think the mechanism is in there. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. I would just go through here,
toe loops.
Oh yeah. You want to go through the loop?
Now put it on the hook, and then I'll put another strap pulling it.
Okay. Here's a selection of blades I got with this. This one might be for aluminum. A couple of 18-inch blades. And that one, big arbor, I think it's a 2-inch arbor. That won't fit this without a bushing. But I'm real happy. So this is a 5-horse 230/460. Well, I hope you enjoyed that quick update and a few additions of machines to the shop. Really anxious to start using that Marvel draw cut saw. It seems to work fine. Probably just needs a little tweaking, a little oiling, a little oil in the gear case as you saw, and that thing will be have us up and running. I mean, we didn't have any way to cut a straight line with the Peerless down, so we've been, you know, getting a lot of stuff through Send Cut Send that we could otherwise just chop off ourselves off a piece of plate or a tube. So looking forward to reconditioning these, getting the woodworking equipment settled in some part of the shop. I've got to get the pallet jack out from under this and move the radial arm saw back deeper into the shop and start working on a couple of little clamps and things that hold the motor and the pivots in place, and we'll be good to go on that. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the new subscribers. I'm sure most of you have checked out Keith Rucker's new Kearney & Trecker 2D mill. I've sent him some tips, have not received a shout out from him yet, but I notice I am receiving some new subscriptions because of his videos going up online. So people have found their way over to my channel. The original Kearney & Trecker 2D rotary head mill channel, unless you want to count Ed Callahan. He's had one, he's had some videos up for a long time on his. They're very short though. So thanks again for watching and subscribing. Be back again next week with another update and more progress on our Spitfire front drive component projects. So until then, as always, stay safe.